despite all these warnings, the people still want a king. So, probably a bit begrudgingly, Samuel goes along with it because the Lord has told him that he should agree with them and do what they say. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. I've got a new camera angle, as you can see. And welcome back to our Bible study. Alright, so we're looking at 1 Samuel chapter 8 right now. And the past couple of chapters basically involved the Philistines taking the Ark of the Covenant, getting cursed by God because it was there, returning it to Israel, and then Israel basically, moving it between a couple of different places, and kind of as important, if not more important, at least for the story here, Samuel is now, officially instated as, the leader in Israel. And, they basically gave him the title of judge, similar to the judges from the previous book of the Bible. Well, 2 books ago in the Bible. But yeah, so he's their main leader now, officially. And pretty much right when that happened, he wound up, basically pleading with God to help deliver them from the Philistines who were about to attack again. And God drove them away, so that further solidified his leadership credentials, so to speak. But anywho, okay. That's all we got for context, pretty much. So, let's hop into this. This is going to be 1 Samuel chapter 8. As Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons to be judges over Israel. Joel and Abijah, I don't know if that's how that's pronounced, but whatever, his oldest sons, held court in Beersheba. But they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. They accepted bribes and perverted justice. Finally, all the elders of Israel met at Ramah to discuss the matter with Samuel. "Look," they told him, "you are now old, and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like all the other nations have." So, this is where Israel officially starts asking for a king. Even though God had previously told them that they really shouldn't have a king, because if they did, he was going to do all sorts of things to take advantage of them, and, basically things wouldn't go well. But the part of the reason they're asking for a king right now is that they're concerned about their leadership in the near future, because Samuel's old and because his sons aren't doing their jobs correctly. So, their motives aren't the worst. The idea of what they think they want, though, still isn't good. What they should have asked for was maybe for him to appoint another judge, or, find/discern one for them. But that's not what happened. They asked for a king specifically. So, then we get to verse 6. Samuel was displeased with their request and went to the Lord for guidance. "Do everything they say to you," the Lord replied, "for they are rejecting me, not you. They don't want me to be their king any longer. Ever since I brought them from Egypt, they have continually abandoned me and followed other gods. And now they are giving you the same treatment. Do as they ask, but solemnly warn them about the way a king will reign over them." And really, his warning should end up being a reminder to them rather than anything new, because it was already stated, I want to say, I don't know, back maybe in Exodus or Joshua or somewhere around there. But in any case, the Lord is telling Samuel to go along with it, reassuring him that it's not his fault, that it's not him that they have a problem with, that it's the Lord that they have a problem with. But also God is saying, look, they've been rejecting me since I brought them out of Egypt. This is nothing new. We'll let them do this thing, and, they can see how it works. Whether or not God is, meaning well in that line of thinking, it's not really stated, but ultimately, I think it's kind of almost a concession that, it was bound to happen because of the continual rejection of the Israelites. Or the continual rejection of God by the Israelites is probably the better way to put that. So, anyway, then we get to verse 10. So Samuel passed on the Lord's warning to the people who were asking him for a king. This is how a king will reign over you, Samuel said. The king will draft your sons and assign them to his chariots and his charioteers, making them run before his chariots. Some will be generals and captains in his army. Some will be forced to plow in his fields and harvest his crops. And some will make his weapons and chariot equipment. The king will take your daughters from you and force them to cook and bake and make perfumes for him. He will take away the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his own officials. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your grape harvest and distribute it among his officers and attendants. He will take your male and female slaves and demand the finest of your cattle and donkeys for his own use. He will demand 1/10 of your flocks, and you will be his slaves. When that day comes, you will beg for relief from this king you are demanding, but then the Lord will not help you. I might as well wrap up the chapter since we're so close. But the people refused to listen to Samuel's warning. Even so, we still want a king, they said. We want to be like the nations around us. Our king will judge us and lead us into battle. So Samuel repeated to the Lord what the people had said, and the Lord replied, Do as they say, and give them a king. Then Samuel agreed and sent the people home. So, by the way, we should not assume that this was shortly after Samuel had been instated as judge, because it says at the top of the chapter, as Samuel grew old. And it said in the previous chapter that he served as Israel's judge his entire life, essentially. At least from that point on. So, Samuel gives them this warning, basically that the king is going to take a bunch of their stuff for himself and demand all this extra work from them just to serve his own needs, or desires, more like. And the assumption is that, the king will be taking all this on top of the things that they're normally supposed to give to the Lord. In fact, it might not even be encouraged at times to give the things to the Lord that they're supposed to, because this king is going to take more from them, and they might not be as able to give to the Lord as they should. Real quick, hey Ukulele, I know I'm looking over here because I've got the chat window over there at the moment, and I changed the camera angle lately, so I'm not having the microphone blocking my face. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, Ukulele. We're reading 1 Samuel chapter 8 right now. That's where I am in my progress reading through the Bible. So yeah, the Israelites request a king. Samuel gives them this warning that there's going to be a bunch of bad things for them that will come from giving them a king. But they say, we don't care, we still want a king. We want someone to, officially be leading us, both in battle and in, just everyday life and how we should live, kind of things. Sort of like what Samuel had done up to that point. Really, most of the judges were rulers of that sort. At least, assuming they lived long enough to have more of the, spiritual leadership. Some of them weren't so great at that, but that was kind of what people expected and assumed of them in that role. But now they're saying, okay, we want a king instead who's going to do all the things and lead us like the other nations around us, because we're not sure this whole judge thing is working out, especially with you being old and your sons not doing their jobs right. So, long story short, Samuel and the Lord have agreed to give Israel a king. Eventually, it's going to look like Samuel described. Maybe not right away, but eventually. Anywho, let me look into the footnotes here before I wrap anything up. So Heber says commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, rather than saying some of the men that he drafts will be generals and captains in his army. Same general gist. The point is, though, that some of the men, rather than having almost a militia-like army where it's just the people themselves deciding, all right, we're going to fight to, stop whoever's attacking us, or to, go take this land that the Lord set aside for us, or whatever. It's going to be more like official military kind of stuff. At least, I'm trying to think of modern day terms that would compare. Footnote there at the word cattle, as in the Greek version, Hebrew reads young men, but he will take your male and female slaves and demand the finest of, I guess it would say, your young men, then possibly young men and donkeys. Either way, point being, eventually the king would end up just, taking things away from them for his own purposes. People to do work for him, animals for his own, feasts and maybe offerings. So, yeah, despite all these warnings, the people still want a king. So, probably a bit begrudgingly, Samuel goes along with it because the Lord has told him that he should agree with them and do what they say. So, anyway, that's kind of it for 1 Samuel chapter 8. A little on the short side there. Alright, so Israel wants a king, and apparently they're going to get one sometime soon-ish. It's assumed that Samuel is going to be the one to pick out the king, because they specifically asked him to give them a king. So we'll see how that happens and turns out in future chapters. But anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell if you're on YouTube to get updates when I post new videos. If you're seeing this anywhere else, just give me a follow or whatever you need to for that platform. Look down in the description for info on other social media pages and other places you might be able to find and follow me and keep up with what I'm doing. And leave comments down below the video with any thoughts you have. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. Whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.